Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wa rabbil alameen. Akibatun lib mustaqim. Allah fi kulli umri asta'in. Allah fi kulli umri amjid. Innahu rabbi ladhi yuhibbu mu'min ladhi yusalli wa ibadatuhu wa salawatuhu minna mukhlisin. Muhammadan huwa sayyidina madbubana innahu kana rasulana nabiyyan. Sallu Allah ta'ala عليه وسلام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. لإخواني وأخوتي في دين وسلام على من تبع هدى للإخواني وأخوتي في إفريقيا وأوروبا آسيا وأمريكا والسنديز وكل مكان. أهلا وسهلا بكم. Thank you, my dear brothers and sisters who are here, my dear sister Amina, and those who will show in the future, inshallah, ta'ala, and those who review this khutbah, inshallah, ta'ala. I am close to finishing the 77 traits of Iman. And it's a growing theme, as you notice, the Subhanahu wa ta'ala in his wisdom, he gives us the Qur'an. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam discusses what Subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. This, and then we hear this, and then we believe. We act upon what our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam has said, has ordered, has suggested. And we use his guide in order to follow the command of Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Iman and the 77 traits of this is a culmination of what Subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking, because he uses these beautiful terms, as I've said before, mukhlisin, like I love this word, the people among the sincere. And there's other terms too that he uses. Of course, mu'minin, there's sadiqeen, qanitin. There's many adjectives to describe those that Subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. Once you have completed these 77 and you're on your way to most of them, at least all of them, then you're classified as in one of these. Subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best which one he's going to classify you as. Is he going to classify you as one of the salihin? Is he going to classify you as among the qanitin or the mukhlisin, and so forth and so on? So these 77 traits, it's not a laughing matter or a joke or something that you can slide over, because the deficiency inside the Muslim community today is widening and is getting greater as we speak. And again, as you heard me say, there's people that you tell them about the 77 traits of Iman, they laugh. They say, I don't want to hear it. They'll tell you, look, I don't know nothing about it. I don't care to know anything about it. I know I'm a Muslim. I know I'm going to Jannah. I pray. I make Psalm. I do what is right in Ramadan. I even went to Hajj and so forth. But they don't even care to learn what actually Subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them. They don't care about that. And again, like I said before, they'll tell you some things. Well, look, I don't read the Quran. I read it every Ramadan. Or you hear somebody say, I'm a strong Muslim. I pray only on Fridays. That's what I'm required to do. We're seeing all of these. And so it's very, very, very detrimental, my brothers and sisters, that we acquire these traits and that we keep them and enforce them, as I've been saying before. Now we're on number 52 here. We'll start. And, as I go through these, and I go through these often, and I look at them, and as I always said, these are not easy. I mean, these are easy to accomplish. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Prophet, ﷺ, they're not asking much from us. They're not asking for us to jump off a cliff or to run 10, 15 miles or to lift weights to where we fall out and die, or to do things that would be detrimental to our health. They're not asking any of that. They're asking common, simple principles that we apply in our life. And they're so hard, so many of us to complete. And it's really, you have to really think about what is our Iman, and where are we at right now, as far as Muslims, and we are fragmented tremendously, and it's unfortunately, and those who are strong in the deen, who are devout in the deen, are under even far more greater pressure, because not only do they have the devil and the demons going after him, they got their own. The Shaitan has Shaitan has his own little army that he has everywhere in the world, and he basically sicks them on to people he want. And so the devout Muslim, you can call him whatever you want to call him. You want to call him Salaf Salih. You want to call him fundamentalist. You can call him any of those names. They're after those people. They're after them. They're after them greatly. And then you got the traitors and so forth and so on. And this would makes it so difficult, and why some people say, you know what, if I become strong, I start going to the masjid every day, I start to exhibit Islamic traits. I mean, to the traits of Iman. Then the powers to be, the intelligence agencies will go after me. This is the choice that you have to make, my brother and sister, on this. Because yes, you can go back and say, I'd rather show to be fasik, but you don't know what Subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to do at the day of judgment, because he knows the need in your heart. Were you actually trying to evade something, or was you trying to just use that as an excuse? We had to be very careful. I chose that I wanted to be the best Muslim I could. That's what I told this Grand Sheikh when I was in Sudan many years ago now. And because he asked me the question, as I told you, he gave me two scenarios. And one, you be the modern type where they invite you to tea, coffee, pastries at their house. You'll be going to most all the weddings. You'll go to all the functions. And then you be the devout Muslim, where you be student of knowledge, or end up a scholar, or you're a qadi, a judge, or a faqih, or something like this. Then all this type of stuff will basically stop. So he asked me, I told him I wanted the latter. I wanted to make sure that I want to be the best Muslim I possibly could. So with that said, we'll go now to the 52nd trait. And as I listed them here in the chat room, to obtain from prohibited things when undertaking monetary transactions. This is a problem in Muslim countries today. And I have to pick on them more so than in the West. In the West, you expect the people to be devilish, treacherous, traitorous, rogue. You expect all that in the non-Muslim countries. But unfortunately, today, we have this even in the Muslim countries, where we have very, very deviant individuals who are involved in money transactions, stealing land, stealing money from other Muslims, stealing inheritance, or we have where inheritance where the sons of the family just basically override the daughters who do have a interest into the wealth of their father and mother, and they end up swindling that from them. We have all of that today. All this is happening as we speak, especially in regards to food. We have such treachery, it's unbelievable. And even in the Muslim countries, it is absolutely disgusting. You expect that when you're in United States or in some other part of the world, but not in the Muslim countries. But today we have that greatly, where people sell rotten meat. These are Muslims. These supposed to be Muslims. They'll sell rotten meat, or they'll sell bad dates, tamar in English, or they'll cheat you. Like we notice, one of the things that people are doing is you'll get quote unquote new dates, and the dates look good when you open up the packet. They'll put the best dates at the top to fool you, and then you pay your money for it. And the dates nowadays are they're not really that cheap, but they're not that expensive. But now, because of the virus has happened, people lost their income. It's not easy to buy the stuff. And so you open up you take it home, and you're ready to have at the tamar, because in the Muslim lands, not all, but especially North Africa and the Middle East and so forth and so on, the dates are delicious. Not like the stores when I used to get them back in the United States. They were old and whatnot, didn't taste good. But here you get them fresh. Unfortunately, you open up a box, and then 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 of them are good. And then suddenly, when you open up when you get to the bottom, they're small, they're rotten, they have worms in them, they have other things, they have developed some type of fungus. This is what we have running all through the Muslim world today. This is why 52, abstain from prohibited things when undertaking monetary transactions. That brother, that so-called brother Muslim, who takes the tamar and he fools you and me as Muslims we buy at face value what he says. He says this thing is $5 US dollars, or 50 dirhams like in Morocco. And he say, this is good dates. These are beautiful dates. They're fresh. You take him at his word. He says salam to you, and you give it back to him. And then you buy the dates. You take it home. And then when your son looks in there and he says, Dad, he says, I don't know what's wrong with these dates here. Look, you open up the thing, and then you look down there, and they're rotten. And we have this a lot, my brothers and sisters. This is happening too much. This is what we're talking about here. You are prohibited from doing things like that. Or you go into a restaurant. And in Muslim countries, this is a bad problem, where now you go into a restaurant, you expect to eat halal food. Food is clean. And according to the sunnah, everything's supposed to be, because you're supposed to care for the health of your brother and sister in Islam. That's why Muslim, aku Muslim, the Prophet, ﷺ, a Muslim is to brother to every Muslim. You protect him. You don't turn him over to his enemy. You don't fight him, and you don't kill him. This is what the Prophet ﷺ has said in his last, basically, hadith about this. And when he was instructing us as Muslims how we're supposed to treat one another. And yet we go to a restaurant, excuse me, and the restaurant, and you go and you get, jaundice. You get jaundice from food that's bad, that's been sitting out for 2 or 3 days. In order for him to make money, he'll just collect this food and put it back there. It's roach infested, or you get a parasite infection because of it. We have this, my brothers and sisters, in the Muslim world, and it's a lot, especially in the Arab states. It's very, very bad now. Very, very bad. This type of thing is happening, and we have to call it for what it is. And they're not acting in the best interest of this type of transaction. When you are disloyal, when you put somebody and you kill, let me tell you something, and I know, you have bad food in restaurants. You get salmonella, or you can get E. coli, it could kill you. Guess who get blamed for that death? That restaurant owner, the people, or that manager who knew the food that was given was rotten. He gave it to a family. They had 2 children and a pregnant wife. Maybe the wife and the baby that was in her stomach, and the 2 kids are dead. And the father, he survived it. The murder goes on him for Yom Kippur. He just killed those people. So we have to be very careful on the monetary transactions. When you go and steal somebody's land, or you go to take his money by swindling him, you tell him, and we have this now, and not only in Muslim states, in Africa, we have this a lot, where people will try to sell you land. They'll show you all this brochures. You leave Los Angeles, California, you expect to see this lush forest. And then you go and you make all the transactions, and you say, well, when can I see my land? Okay, yes, but we got to finish this first. And then suddenly what they do, they go and then they send you, their runner will go send you after you've already paid this money. You paid this money, you sign a contract. He sends you to the desert. We have this happening in Africa a lot today. They're taking advantage, especially of their own Black brothers who's coming from the diaspora, from America in particular. And they're doing this now a lot. Or like in one case, I remember in Ghana, which upset me greatly. The so-called chief, he told the brothers, they were from Detroit and their families and everything. They were looking to make their migration to live in Africa. They go in there. This is now almost about 10 years ago. And so they made an offer. The chief gave them almost equivalent to about 30 hectares of land for I forget how many families. That's a lot of land. So he said, okay, you pay me. So they said, okay, well, we did. They're going to work out the contract. Well, suddenly, as they were about ready to do this bidding and everything, they put a retainer and so forth on the land. So did this so-called chief come back to them and told them, said, look, the Tubab, Europeans came and made a better offer. Yes, this is happening. This is happening. Undertaking monetary transactions, not prohibited things. This is prohibited. And he said, I took my money. So they said, okay, give me my retainer, which was, I think, equivalent to about 20,000 US dollars, 200,000 dirhams. He wouldn't give it back. When they began to protest, the police got involved. They left without their money. This was in Ghana about 10 years ago. So what I'm saying is we have this type of stuff going on, and it's dreadful. And we should be very careful as Muslims of this. Number 53, not conceal something true which you may have witnessed. My brothers and sisters, this is a serious problem here. Let's look at this one again. Not to conceal something true which you may have witnessed. Now, we have some criteria to this. Okay, I'm going to give you some scenarios to help you to discern from this number 53. Okay, you're walking down the street and you see a Muslim. You know him to be married, but you see him standing on the corner holding hands with a woman that's not his wife. And then you see her kiss her on the cheek, and then maybe even a passionate kiss. And maybe he fondles her back, and she's you could tell this is a romantic outing here. Now you witnessed that. Are you supposed to go back to his wife and tell? No, you cannot. That's why as Muslims we have rules. You need to be very careful what you do. Are you supposed to go back and say, look, I saw Yahya with this woman? No, you cannot. Because if she turns around out of sheer sadness and she hits him over the head with a frying pan, so to speak, and she killed him, you're part of that because you went and told her. You don't have enough to label him with zina. You don't. The best thing you can do is you go to the police. Then you're covered. Let the police do what they're supposed to do. If you took pictures of me and this girl, and then you give this picture to the police, you're covered. But you don't go back to the man's wife, to my family, and go to my wife and say, hey, look, Yahya, I saw him Friday afternoon after Jumu'ah with this beautiful young woman, and he was holding hands and kissing her. Okay, you can't do that. This is why I'm saying you got to be very careful. You must either conceal this. You cannot go to spread it through the neighborhood. You cannot, because you don't have a case for zina. Remember, you need 4 witnesses. You do have a case for wahish, but even that, you got to be very careful. You got to bring it to the police and let them handle it from that point. Now, let's go back in the United States. Another example of this. Do you remember after 9/11? You remember how it was hot and very heavy on the Muslims in the United States? They were begging Muslims to come forward on other Muslims. I mean, it got to the point it was ridiculous. Every Muslim who appeared to be strong with a beard, if he had a kufi, he was being turned in to the police. And they said they were seeing things that they did not see. And many Muslims were put in jail because they did background checks and found out they were wanted in Arizona for some traffic violation. And I mean, Muslims are doing this to other Muslims. Then it got to the point where they start to go to the masjids and say, look, when you see a fundamentalist, then this is what you do. We want you to report him so we can do investigation on him before he bombs your masjid. We have Muslims and imams going to the police to report strong Muslims, even though they did not witness anything, but they did say they saw him. He looked to be this. He looked like he was a supporter of some Mujahideen group. But what happened was the rogue Tubab cop, they forgot about how he was. When these Muslims begin to come in to report you and me, they begin to make investigations on them too. And then what happened? The government began to say the Muslims are not coming forward to tell on other Muslims when they know these guys to be, maybe rogue elements, and maybe they may plan some event. But the Tubab government in America actually was detrimental to that because they were going after Muslims who were actually turning in other Muslims. So they went after the Muslim who they turned in, and then they went after the Muslim who gave evidence to this crime, so-called crime. You see, this one here is very difficult. In cases like this, it's best to be quiet. Now, we're not talking about you see a brother, in the masjid going to a liquor store and he's spraying up the place so he can go in there and steal $50, $60, or $100. You can't let that go. That's a different situation. You cannot conceal something like that. You must have something you must tell, because maybe Muslims died inside that store that he sprayed up. He shot up the place when he did a drive-by and he went there to rob some people. Maybe some Muslims is in there who died. You must abide by the laws of the land at that time. But cases like this, my brothers and sisters, where you have a fundamentalist, somebody you think, and Wahhabis, Salaf, or whatever, you don't run to the police on him. If I come in your masjid, you say, oh, look at this guy come in here. Oh, look at it. He's got a big beard. He's got a imam, in Arabic, a turban. He's wearing a tobe. Oh, I got to report him to the FBI. I got to report him to the local police. You don't do that because you did not witness a crime. So this something here, you conceal your prejudices and what you think. And remember, suspicion is forbidden. And subhanahu wa ta'ala talks that in Surah, Hujurat. He talks about the suspicion of and spying on Muslims and having the suspicion. You got to be very careful that you conceal that. If you say, I see this guy, Yahya, I got a feeling he belongs to some Mujahideen group. You should be very careful what you say, because perhaps I may not be that. And then what you do, you turn my life sometime where you have police come after my wife and my sons and daughters and stuff like that, all because of your prejudices and your suspicion, which was wrong. Be careful on number 53. And if you do witness certain crimes, you know how it is with the Tuba police. You go to be a witness, you saw a robbery, especially with gangsters. You're a Muslim, you walking down the street, and you come back from the masjid late at night, say from the Salat to Isha, the last prayer of the night. You see these gangsters, they rob. And then you go to the police and say, guess what? I know who did the robbing here. The Tuba police most likely will turn you over to them. They say, hey, you know what? Robert, I know you were there. We got this Muslim. His name is Yahya. He told me he saw you. This is what they do. How many brothers have been killed when they went in their own communities to turn into gangsters? And the racist Tuba goes back to the same gangsters who are under investigation to say, guess what? I got information from Yahya and his family. And they go there to beat them. We have this a lot, my brothers and sisters. Be careful of number 53. Salam alaikum, my dear brother Saeed. And this is a one that we have to think about and be very careful of. Not to conceal something true which you have witnessed. Be careful of this one. Remember the Islamic principles behind that. Don't jump and go past the Sharia. Because when you do that, I gave you examples what happened to the Muslims after 9/11, who began to turn in other Muslims because they thought they were fundamentalists, or you thought they had leanings toward the Mujahideen groups or something like this. And they too ended up being arrested on many occasions. They told them, hey, come back and I want you to fill out a paper. You come back, they arrest you after they did an investigation on you. Be very careful of number 53, my brother and sister. It's deadly. So you be careful of that. And remember something. We're Muslims. We have the Sharia to follow. If you see something, especially under the Sharia, be very careful. If you saw something, but it doesn't meet the requirement under the Sharia, don't spread it. If you saw me standing on the corner, it's just only me and her. There's no other persons around. And you saw me on the corner with a young lady, and you saw me kissing her. You don't go spread that. Why? Because look at the Prophet ﷺ and what happened with Aisha. Be very mindful of that. Because what if you saw me standing on the corner there, and because it was dark, and maybe it was the lighting, and you saw me hold the hand of a girl, a young woman, maybe in her 20s, okay? And you saw me kiss her on the cheek. Oh, this is Sheikh Yahya. Oh, I got him. And then you go to spread that. And then you come to find out later, 3 days later, if you spread that awful rumor on me, that was my granddaughter who I was giving money to and kissing her goodbye so she can go home. This happens many times. And now here you have spread an ugly rumor on this man when he did not do what you said you thought he did. You didn't know that was his granddaughter kissed on the cheek to tell her goodbye so she can go home to her parents, which is related. I mean, because you're the grandfather and here's your granddaughter. This has happened. I gave an example of a case I know of, and somebody did this, and they went after this brother. When the brother finally, he said, "What? I saw he was making adultery. It's not adultery. There was no. You have to have 4 witnesses, and you have to see a sexual act being consummated, not standing on the corner holding hands with a young woman. You see an old black man, and you see a young woman, or a young white woman, or a light-skinned woman, and you say, oh, check your heels. Oh, look, he talks in the masjid. Look what he's doing here. He's with this young 23 pretty little thing here. She's light-skinned. Oh, he's making zina." He spreads this. And when the rumor comes out, and when I'm questioned, I say, yeah, I was on the corner after that. Guess what? Because my granddaughter prayed in the masjid with us, and after that, I was making sure she got home safely. I kissed her on the cheek. This is my granddaughter. My granddaughter, he turned me in on. You see, be careful, my brothers and sisters. Be very careful. This is happening too often. Be very careful of this here, number 53. Number 54, get married when nafs desires to do so. 54 is a problem we have today because of financial difficulties. And not only that, because of the waywardness of way our Muslims, especially in the Western world. But not only there, it's happening in Morocco, every other place too. The devil is winning. We have a lot of fornication going on all over the place. And even though we have people, you have young people who will tell you straight and say, look, man, I don't need to marry. I have sexual relations with a couple of girls without any string. I don't have to pay for this. I don't have to pay for no mar. I don't have to do any marriage. I have these girls over here I play with. I got many girls to play with every weekend after school. We hear this now, especially in the United States, but not so much as like in Morocco. You don't hear that much, but we do know it's happening and it's growing. But we do know in Muslim states this type of thing is happening. Be mindful of this, especially with our young kids. Be very mindful because we have young, especially our sons. We have young, fast women, girls that don't care anything about any chastity about themselves, even Muslims. I remember, it's not off the subject either. I remember here maybe 12, 13 years ago that I'm not going to name the school. It was an Islamic school. The only thing I could say was in Illinois. I won't name it. And they did a beautiful article on that school. What we found out in that school that when it came out, there was more pregnancies going on in this school and sexual conduct, misconduct going on between Muslims in this particular Islamic school, more so than it was happening in the public schools. You see what I mean, my brothers and sisters? How the devil is even working among us. Number 54, get married when the nafs desire to do so. Yes, it's easier said than done today because the finances. Many of us can't even afford to give our prospective wife even a mar. And sometimes the girls and the girls' parents will even ask for something that you can't accomplish. They'll say, look, my daughter is a virgin. She's beautiful. I want 30,000 dirhams, say, for instance, which is about 3,000 US dollars. You're young and upcoming, and you think you're going to be able to do it. You have this confidence and you don't want to make haram. You don't want to go fornicate. So you find a young lady, she wants to marry, but the parents turn back around and say, look, you know what? No, we're going to make him pay for it. We're going to make him pay a high mar. This is happening. And we have to be very careful for this. Now you chase a possibly a good husband for your daughter in the future. They will struggle together, yes, but they're together. This is the best of the struggle, the jihad. When you marry, when you have little nothing, your wife assists you, you guys work together to build your family, and you start off with nothing, and then you ended up with a lot. We have this, and it's a beautiful, that relationship lasts. Why? Because they struggle from the beginning. But nowadays, we have parents take that away. They say, look, oh, no. If you don't have a 1 million dirhams in your bank account, or you can't give my daughter 50,000, 60,000 dirhams, and you can't give her a whole round of gold, then I won't let you marry her. And that girl goes off and the boy goes off, and he may be subject to some fornication later because his desire, because he's a young man, we understand that. I was young, I understand that. He wants to fulfill his obligations, but under the Sharia, and things happen, my brothers and sisters. So we had to be very careful of this one, to get married when the nafs desires to do so. When you have that desire, hey, it's time to get married, you do the best you can, you offer what you can to get married. And even our sisters, you say, hey, look, I'm old enough now. I want to have my own family now. I want to have a husband, and I want to have children and whatnot. And you're 19 years old. There's nothing wrong with that, my dear sisters. And then you go to your parents and say, look, Dad, can you find me a prospective husband, because I'm ready? And most fathers will agree if they see their daughters are mature and they have they are good and rounded in the deen. Yes, they go to get a prospective husband, but they make sure that boy is rounded as well. You don't want some punk who doesn't pray, or who's a fasik. He doesn't want to pray or anything, and he fight Islam. You don't want that kind of punk marrying your daughter. Your daughter's a strong Muslimah. So you got to find somebody, but your daughter came to you. That's you as a father, the man of the house. Your daughter come to you, she's 19, 20 years old. She said, Dad, I'm ready for marriage. You must be honored. You must honor that. And you must look at her and say, my daughter, I think I agree with you. I want you. And you ask your mother. Your mother said, yes, my daughter, I believe you're ready. Because she is the best teacher, and she understands the daughter more so than the father. Because she knows about her ways and her temperament, and if she can handle the marriage at a young age. She knows if she'll be able to take care of her husband. The father, he knows somewhat, but not as good as the mother. And when both of them concur that the daughter is ready at 19 to marry, you as the man, you should go out to find that. Don't go to your daughter and say, you get out of here. You ain't getting married until you're 26. Don't do that. We have this happening today, my brothers and sisters, and you destroy that thing in her nafs, because now she's ready. And then you push her, and perhaps you may push her out of the house, and perhaps you may push her into some relationship that is haram. This happens. Please, my brothers and sisters, be careful. Your daughters and your sons. If your son is ready, you know he's ready. He's 20 years old. You see him. He's a hard worker. He's a good boy. He prays. You watch him as a man. You know he's ready. He's a young man now. He's ready to support his family. And he come to you and you tell him no. You say, no, you ain't ready yet, boy. Maybe 23, 24, 25, maybe you be ready. Don't do that. If he's ready at 20, you facilitate that. You go to find him a bride. In the Muslim world, we have this connection, which is not so like in Western states. It's very difficult. In the Muslim countries, we have this mechanism where you can go to the imam. You can go to many people and say, hey, look, you know what? Your son, he's 20 years old. Guess what? I have my daughter. She's this. They may be a match, and they begin to investigate, and perhaps it's good. But you go to facilitate that marriage, because your son at 20 years old, he come to you and say, I'm ready for this. You facilitate that, my brothers and sisters. Facilitate that. When your daughter or your son come to you, they say they're ready for marriage. Don't fight them. Now, if they're immature, they're not with it. Okay. You know that they would not last as far as the marriage. You know they wouldn't even be able to take care of their husband and children. That's a different situation altogether. And even though she may run out of the house and do something anyway, but you're covered. But the ones who are ready, facilitate their marriage, my brothers and sisters. I know it's hard. That's your son. That's your daughter. You raised them from a baby. Now they're ready to step out on their own. But you got to understand, you had to step out. You let them also go and step out, because they must continue the generations. You must now facilitate that, and facilitate that doing what is supposed to be right under the Sharia. So, my brothers and sisters, that is important. Don't forget that message. Be very mindful of this one here, of fulfilling the rights. To get married when the nafs desires to do so. Be mindful of that. Okay, number 55. Fulfill the rights of those who are under you. Okay, this is encompassing. Number 55 is very, very encompassing. Here you have to do the husband in the house. Okay, he has rights over his wife. Right, the wife has rights over him. You have in the workplace. You have the imam. You have the rulers of the country. We'll get to some of that. It's starting to come. I don't want to get deeper into that. We're talking that, and we're going to spend some time with that, because we have problems with that. You see what is happening all over the place. You see revolutions taking place. And I covered some of this before, but now we're going to cover it, good, because it's part of Iman. But here, the fulfill the rights of those who are under you. If you're working, you are the manager of a place, a restaurant. You make sure that place is right, and you treat your employees correctly. Don't underpay them. If they're supposed to have their money, you give them their money. Inside the house, you as the man of the house, you facilitate the house, but you give rights as you're supposed to give rights to everybody inside that house. Your wife has rights over you. You have rights over your wife. Be careful of that. Also, and as far as inheritance, why I'm talking about this, because we see this. This is a dreadful case. We have rights where we have the fathers passed on. He's got land, say in another city, say Casablanca, for instance, I'm saying. He's got houses and so forth. The sons get a certain percentage of this, and so do the daughters. But what we're finding out now is they're finding ways to move the daughters out. This is wrong. As I said, we're starting to see this. So the oldest boy now, who's now in charge, who is now head of the family, a lot of times become rogue. They say, my sister over here, I ain't giving her this. I'll give her only a one little small apartment over here in a bad area, when she should be getting that and some other interest in some apartments, some good apartments that your dad built in Casablanca, and he tries to restrict it from that. Be very careful. That'll send you to fire. Don't steal the inheritance of your siblings. It'll send you to the fire. Be very careful of that. Those who under you, you be very mindful of that. I won't talk about the rulers and the mayors and all that. We won't get into that. That's coming. That's part of Iman, but I'll get into that later. See if there's anything. Okay. No, there's no questions. All right, now number 56 is very self-explanatory, especially among African Americans, Africans born in America, and Africans in general. Provide comfort to one's parents. We have to do this. We know that this is coming upon us. As Muslims in the West, this may be difficult. Why? In a sense, because we're Muslims and then parents are non-Muslims. That doesn't mean you disrespect your parent. You still love them. You still obey them. But when it comes to, religious matters, if your father tell you, look here, you come to my house, you can't pray. You don't obey that. But you go and you facilitate your relationship with your parents. Don't drop that. Don't ruin that because you become Muslim and they stay as disbelievers. You don't do that. You pray for them that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will bring them to Islam, but you treat them good and you do the best you can. If your mom, your father's passed on, your mom is left in the house by herself, the oldest boy or the daughter can take. In Islam, we don't leave our parents out there out on the street fend for themselves. We go and get them and bring them inside the house so they be protected and loved and nourished. Because since they did this for this is only right for us as Muslims. Even though I will say, I had auntie here, my wife's auntie. I spent my time, I did everything, and I made a promise to my father. My father told me, you treat her like your mother. He told me, I made that promise to him. I would fulfill that. You can ask my wife. I did it. I took care of her. I fed her. I did what I had to do for her. I did best I could for her and whatnot. This is what we're supposed to do as Muslims, our brothers and sisters. We are Muslims. We're not the others. We abide by the examples. We have kindness for our believers, and we're stern against the disbelievers and the hypocrites. We should follow that. Be very careful about your parents. And even those who are not your parents, you still respect them, especially in your house. You don't go disrespect a old man inside the house, and even though he's not your father, you disrespect him. You can't do that in Islam. You'd be in trouble for that. You better look in the Quran. There's some things that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala said about that. Be very careful and mindful of that. Number 58, not to sever relations with one's friends and relatives. This is a difficult one. Yes, because we have rules to this, and we have wars and fights in families over this because we have friends and relatives who are disbelievers, and we sever our ties. Many we take our shahadatain. We say, yeah, you my cousin, man, but hey, I'm finished with you, man. I'm Muslim now. You walk off. I didn't fight him for faith. I didn't fight him for his faith, but so he broke off with me. Can't do that. You see here, this is part of man. You keep the ties, okay? You keep the ties of relatives. Just because they're Hebrew or even atheists, you keep your ties with them, my brothers and sisters. Don't break that and sever that relationship. You got cousins, even if you know you have cousins that are wayward, they may lie, they do things. Yes, you keep them at arm's distance, but you don't break your relationship with your family. You don't do that. Now, if they begin to fight you for your faith, that's a different situation. You know what Subhanahu wa ta'ala said about that, about the fathers, sons, daughters, so forth, and whatnot, who fight you for your faith. You don't choose them over your faith. If your parents tell you, hey, I'm going to be finished with you. If I see you praying, or you don't become a apostate and come back to the house and be a Christian again, you don't abide that. You say, Dad, I can't obey you, and you lovingly tell him, I said, Dad, I can't obey you, please, I can't do this. And you walk out of the house. Maybe things will cool off. Maybe Pops will come back later and say, you know what? Yeah, I was wrong. I shouldn't have tried to force you out of your faith. But you have to be patient with that. You got to be patient. Yes, you walk away. And perhaps 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month later, Pops may call and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I was wrong. Please come back, son. I'm sorry. Please come back to the house. Your mother wants to apologize too. We won't fight you anymore. How many times we've heard this? We've heard this many times. Don't break relations with your family unless they try to fight you for your deen. That's different. Okay. Or the other thing where we've had this happening too. And I know this for a fact. We have family members who, because you become Muslim, begin to what? Act as informants against you and turn information over to police. We've seen this happen. And I know some of this has happened even close to my family. I know this. So this is a very, very bad thing here. Now, that part you break off and sever, because when they try to put you in jail, it's over. And when you've done nothing and they try to put you in jail, now it's time to break that off. You cannot, because that's for your preservation, especially when you're in the West, where you have draconian Tuba police who want to see that. And then when you have a relative who smiles in your face and go behind you and say, you know what? Yahya is doing this in Palestine. Yahya has been talking to so-and-so over here in this part of the place just to get you in trouble. You break sever relationship from him, from those relatives do that. Now, we'll conclude with this one, and I wanted to end this one for last. To obey one's master. People will look at that, especially the haters of Islam. They say, "Oh, we just proved that part of your faith is slavery." No, that's not what we talk about here. No, it's not what it's meant by here. And I'll give you the proof here. We have, and I put it in the chat already, Surah 4, verse 59. This explains the proof for this one, obey one's master. Because here we have rules in Islam. And we have like the man of the house. The wife is supposed to obey the husband inside the house, not mistreat him, not to disobey him. Now, I'm talking about lawful orders. If the husband tells the wife to go out and to sling some rock, that's different. She disobeys that. Or he tells her he wants her to do things that's outside of sexual matter. I don't need to get into that, but you understand what I mean. She has the right to disobey that. But those but inside the house, the sister must obey her husband. And she's the advisor, and the husband must treat her with respect, and he must abide by the rules and providing for his family. He must do this. Here, we're talking about some issues here that the master, who if we talk about master, there's many aspects to this. But to sum it up, this Surah 4, Surah Nisa, number 4, okay, and it's verse 59. I'll read this in English because we don't have Arabic speakers here, except Amina. But I will read this in English so we can discern this better. Subhanahu wa ta'ala said, O ye who believe, obey Allah and obey the messenger, and they charge with authority among you. If you differ in anything among yourselves, refer to Allah and his messenger. If you do believe in Allah and the last day, that is best and most suitable for your determination. This basically sums up what we talk about here as far as obey one's master. Now, even in work, you working in a lawful job, you have a boss. You got to have somebody in charge. He's the one to give you work instructions. Okay. Now we also have something else we have to look at. In time of war, if we were running under a Sharia state, we have those who are commissioned to what lead us. We must obey them. Okay, and our rulers, we must obey them. This is important. This is part of it because they have what control over us. So you must obey them. Again, lawful orders, not doing the haram. If he tells you, I want you and these 6 people here to go jump into a fire, you don't do it. You'll disobey that. But here we talk about to those who believe. If you believe, you'll obey Allah and his messenger and those charged with authority among you. The Muslims, you know that those who are in charge above you are doing that. They obey Allah. They obey our Prophet, alayhi wasalam. You obey them. Our rulers and so forth. Again, I won't get deep into that. We must obey them. Inside the house, the Muslim man, he is the caretaker of his family. The family must obey him. He's the caretaker of the family. Lawful orders, not illegal orders. If he's fulfilling his obligation, if he doesn't pray and he does some other things, yes, you still respect the man in the house, but you take him to task for it. And because we have rules for this and so forth. But this basically sums it all. Now, here's the other thing. If we have a problem here in something, a command that's been given, okay, a command's been given. Now, what did Subhanahu wa ta'ala say? He said, there's a difference. If you do believe in Allah and his last day, if you differ, he says here, if you differ in anything among yourself, refer to Allah and his messenger. Now, see, remember we've been talking about this for a while, and we'll get into this further, inshallah ta'ala, as we get down now, starting to get to the real good traits about command and authority and how we're supposed to follow people. But here, this is what Muslims are not doing. There's a dispute between me and Saeed. We have some dispute about something, some little thing that I say perhaps we should be doing this, and Saeed say, look, I think we should do that. And what we do, we don't go to the Quran and Sunnah. We go to argue with the Tubab. We go to the Tubab and ask him for his opinion on the matter. And then we're both wrong. He give us some ruling and we do the exact opposite of what the Sharia has said. The answers are in the Quran and the Sunnah of our Prophet, ﷺ. Me and Saeed, we have an argument over some transaction, something happened here. So we say, hey, okay, look, Saeed, here, look what we do. Let's go find the Imam. Let's go ask the Imam. Or let's go put this question to the scholar and he'll give us an answer. That's how we sell it. Because we go to Subhanahu wa ta'ala and to our messenger to solve those disputes among us, right? So we get an answer. When you go to the disbelievers like we have today, we have Muslims who don't even touch the Quran and the Sunnah. They go to the Tubab. When there's a dispute between Muslims, they go to them and they give them usually bad advice. And it makes the matter worse. That's not under the Sharia. And you remember, I always harp on this. You remember something what Subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran about going to the disbelievers and putting their ways over you. Remember, this is in the same surah 40 is 39. 139 is the verse. This is surah 4, 139. You don't use the ways. Subhanahu wa ta'ala will let the disbelievers to win over the believers. You don't use their ways on another Muslim. But we have that today. We have rulers. We have those who are over us. We have commonality. We have parents. We have husbands. We have wives. They don't go to the Quran and the Sunnah to solve their problem. They go outside of that. Be careful of that, my brothers and sisters, because this is happening a lot. Be very careful of that. Mindful of that. This verse here clears it up. You mind those who obey Allah and his messenger. That's what you mind. You don't go against that. You see what Subhanahu wa ta'ala said here. If you believe and your husband, he's inside the house. He's a strong Muslim. He's doing the best he can. You as the wife, you don't go and you go run out of the house without his permission, and you don't tell him nothing, and you disrespect him because the devil has come into you. Now, we have this now. And then what excuse does she have? When the Hezbollah police come to get her, and they ask you, well, you know what, Zainab, I don't understand. We know Yahya, he's a good, strong, young brother. Why you disobey your husband? She doesn't even know why. I don't know. Something got into me. I got mad with Yahya, and I decided I don't want to listen to him no more. The devil. Be careful. Be mindful. If that husband is obeying Allah and his messenger, you follow him. Okay, my brothers and sisters, be mindful of that. It's very, very important. So anyway, we've covered quite a few, and now we're going to start getting into the other task here, inshallah, ta'ala, that will clear up some matters about some of the stuff we see today, these revolutions and so forth and so on. And we have total disregard for Muslims everywhere, even in Muslim lands. So we'll get into that, inshallah, in some days from now, bi'ithnillah ta'ala. So now we're getting close to the end, and we're starting to now to see the pattern of what subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked. We see what our Prophet ﷺ has given us, these guide here. And we have our scholars of old who are explaining this thing, the 77 traits, and how we're supposed to operate and enforce them in our lives. We're starting to see that. So now we have this basis, my brothers and sisters. You should do your research, and you get those things, and you begin to study them, and you say, okay, I'm going to start to master each one of them. You must do this, because you're going to be asked, and you cannot be a devout mu'min without this. You cannot. I don't care what prayer you make. I don't care what you do over here. When you are minusing 70 of these traits, how can you be a mu'min? You cannot. You say you pray, but yet still you unjust to other Muslims. You say you pray and you make psalm, but yet you're not mindful of your parents. You say that you are strong and stuff like that, and yet what you do in other cases, you undertake money transactions, like in number 52, you hurt other Muslims. You steal their money from them, and you give them dates, 10 dates that are good, and then the other 50 that's in the box are rotten. But you said you're a strong Muslim because you pray and you make psalm, but you make the transactions here that are not. Or you say that you are a strong Muslim and you pray and everything, but yet and still, when you see something that's happening, and you should turn that evidence in to get these people, you don't do it. We see that. Now, again, under circumstances where you in the West, you got to be very careful when you turn another Muslim to the Tuba police, because you may end up in jail along with that guy that you just turned in, because he'll look and say, hey, look, I'm gonna get these two birds with one stone here. I got the guy who's reporting he's Muslim, and the guy who's supposed to be making the crime. I'll put both of them in jail. The Tuba is doing that. You see that how many times? It's not funny. I'm not making it a laughing matter, but we have that. Be careful what you do. But if you witness certain things, you must do it. He sprayed up the place. Brother, you turn him in. He's spraying AK-47 all over the place. You get him. He's a gangster. He's shooting up and killing people. You have evidence, but be mindful again of what you turn in, what you have witnessed, because the Tuba will turn back around and say, yeah, thank you, Yahya. You're a good citizen. You just turned in Robert and Jones and all these guys over here, and the Bloods and Crips over here for doing this drive-by. They'll go back to them and say, hey, I got the information on you, and use you as the witness, and they'll come after you and kill me and my whole family. Be mindful and be very careful of that. So my brothers and sisters, today we covered a few here. And again, we're getting there to the end now. And we'll start getting into now to the real crux of being a Muslim, living especially in Muslim lands, and how you're supposed to operate, how you're supposed to take care of yourself, and what's supposed to be, what orders do you abide by? We'll cover that, inshallah ta'ala, because this is important. These are hard to do, because what you see today, you always ask the question, are these Muslims? You see Muslims doing all kinds of rioting. You see them making revolution. You see them doing things. You be asking questions, what's going on with these guys? Why are they doing this? Now subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoken. Our prophet has laid out something. And here we're starting to cover the traits of man, talking about these issues. So I hope you stay tuned in a couple of days from now, inshallah ta'ala. and we'll discuss this because this is important stuff here for us and everything. My brothers and sisters, thank you for showing up. And my brother Saeed, thank you as always, my brother. Thank you very much for showing up. And my dear sister Amina, I appreciate it. Oh, buddy, thanks a lot, my brother, for showing up. Yes, well, Zakam, my brother. Thank you, everybody, Amina, as usual, and my brothers and sisters that will look at this in the future. I'm hoping that you got something out of this and study the 77 traits because they're important, my brothers and sisters, and acquire those traits and be mindful of those traits and enforce those traits because we are Muslims. We are people of law. We are people who abide by our Lord, and we are people who abide by what? By the Quran and the Sunnah. This is our way of life. We must do that. And and inshallah, I'm going to cover a term talking about something many of you may have not heard about, but I'm going to give you a term one of these days, inshallah, when I cover this particular subject. It may shock you about this, but on the same token, that's in the future, talking about Iman, but and the Aqeedah and the Iman in it and so forth. But I won't get into that right now. That's for another day. But my brothers and sisters, thank you for showing up and those in the future. And always, Saeed and brother Abude and Amina, thank you very much. So I'll leave you, my brothers and sisters, with the beautiful words of Jannah. Salamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.